Okay, good evening. The time is 7:03. Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Elsa Rubin. I'm the chair of the Westchester Rent Alliance Board. I welcome you to this third and final public hearing to consider comments and testimony relating to rent adjustments for leases of apartments subject to the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974. These leases will be commencing or being renewed between October 1st, 2026 and September 30th, 2027. And I would like to emphasize here that these discussions tonight are specifically for ETPA Protection Act for the rent, not for other rent adjustments for other rents that are not included in this ETPA. I will now take roll call. Please respond if present. Evelyn Santiago, public member. Natalie Felsenfeld, public member.
Present.
Kenneth Figure will not be here tonight. Sylvia Hammer is going to be a little late. And Gregory Robertson, I haven't heard from him, so no. Tamara Stewart.
Present.
Robert Withard. Thank you. Let the record show that we have quorum. I can see that we have many people here signed up for speaking. There are 16 people. So I will ask all of you to stay, concentrate on your time, stick to your time allowed for people who are representing the organization or representing themselves. And also the afterwards comments, keep it to a minimum if possible so that everybody has an opportunity to express their opinions. I will now call Alexander Hammond. Good afternoon. Please identify yourself.
Oh.
And let us know if you're representing an organization or yourself.
My name is Alexander Hardman. I'm with Vocal New York, a grassroots company which goes to Albany and talks to legislators and aldermen, the mayor, the governor. What we're here and stuff today is we're here for the housing pandemic.
One minute, please. Can everybody hear well? No. I think we might have to turn off the AC.
Or turn up.
No.
Can y'all hear me?
Let's try to turn it off. Okay.
Okay, the rents are in Mount Vernon are extremely high. They are extremely high for regular working people, for people with disabilities, and people suffering with AIDS, HIV, and hepatitis C. What we're here and stuff like that today is to find out and stuff, can we possibly have a rent cap in Mount Vernon? Yeah, I see that we're building a lot of housing in Mount Vernon, and what we're seeing is we're not seeing enough of affordable housing here in Mount Vernon. affordable to plain ordinary people. There's a lot of places that are building, and what we're talking about is that we're having problems with people building a lot of places, but there are no places and stuff for ordinary people to come in and live. The cost of living is up. As we know it all things are up. Food is up, gases prices are high. And we just want to know if there's some way that we can get some of these prices and stuff down or at a level so they would be able to afford more housing. And that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay there in case somebody has a question for you. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions?
No? Thank you. Before I continue, I missed to set up the rules for this procedure. Most of you know the rules, but I see new faces here, so I'm going to read them to you. If you wish to address the board and you have not signed in advance, here is a signing list that you can use. Persons representing themselves will have 3 minutes, and persons representing organizations will have 5 minutes. If you have any documentation to support your presentation, please give it to our counsel, Mr. Stecker, and he will distribute it to us. And when you finish your presentation, please stay on the podium so that if anybody has a question or comment for you, you can respond. And comments are made to the board, not to the public, not to the audience. So please refrain from discussing with the person making the presentation. Do not discuss with them because they are presenting to us. And I will attempt to switch between owners and tenants so that everybody has a fair opportunity. But sometimes it's not possible, but I will try. And lastly, please silence your phones. I will do that myself. And I'm going to call the following person. Melita Coselli. Ms. Coselli, could you please identify yourself and tell us if you're representing someone or yourself?
Yes, good evening, Chair and Council members. My name is Melita Corselli, and I am the Westchester Hudson Valley organizer for the RAP program, as well as a leader with Vocal New York's Westchester chapter.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, but my most important title is mom. I am a Westchester native, and 6 years ago, I myself was homeless. On Christmas Eve, my 3 children and I were displaced with nowhere to go. Thankfully, I found support through PATH in the Bronx. They housed me and my children for 56 days and helped us return to Westchester, specifically North Salem, with 1-year housing assistance. At that time, I was paying $1,200 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in the town's only affordable housing community. I felt like I had hit the lottery because for the first time I could imagine stability. Today, my rent is $1,650 and my income has barely changed. That is the reality for so many families in this county. That is the reality for so many families I work with. Wages stay flat, but rent keeps climbing. And every month becomes a calculation of what can be sacrificed next. Today, half of the renter households in Westchester are rent burdened, meaning they are paying more than 30% of their income towards housing. That is higher than the national rate and slightly above the state average. This is not a personal failure. This is a county-wide affordability crisis and has real human effects. My story is not unique. In Westchester, rent consumes approximately 35% of income for Hispanic households, 33% for Black households, with 27% for white households. So when rents rise again and again, the pain is not abstract. It lands hardest on Black and brown and working class families, already carrying some of the heaviest burdens. I am a part of the herd of working people who are rent burdened, doing everything we can to stay afloat. We work multiple jobs. We make impossible choices every month about what gets paid and what has to wait. And we do it all in an effort to keep a roof over our heads and the children that most of us have. When the housing program for the state HAVP was passed, many of us felt like we had hope, a lifeline in Westchester, especially since Section 8 waiting lists have been closed for years with people waiting more than a decade for help. Then we found out that Westchester only got 78 vouchers, 78 vouchers in a county where 1,800 people reside in shelter a night. 78 vouchers were immediately used by deserving families who are currently in placement, families fighting every day to remain stably housed, went without any relief and any recourse once again. So when we talk about rent protection, let's be honest what's at stake. We're talking about whether a child gets to sleep in the same bed next month. We're talking about whether a parent has to choose between rent or groceries. We're talking about whether families are still hanging on by a thread or allowed or being pushed over the edge. A rent freeze will not solve the entire housing crisis. I know that. We need more vouchers. We need more deeply affordable housing. We need stronger tenant protections, and we need a real commitment to keeping families out of the shelter in the first place. But a rent freeze would give people room to breathe. It would give constituents a fighting chance to not only fall further behind, but to try to catch up. It would keep children in their schools and communities. It would reduce the pipeline from rent burden to eviction to homelessness. In a county when 18 municipalities already operate under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, you already know that this is not a fringe issue. It's a core Westchester issue affecting hundreds of households. I need you to hear me tonight, just not as legislators, but as human beings. Families like mine are not asking for a luxury. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for enough stability to survive. I was homeless once. I know what that cliff looks like. I know how fast a family can fall. I know that there are people in Westchester standing on that edge right now, doing everything they can not to slip. Please do not wait until the children lose their homes before acting. Please do not wait until more people are forced into shelter to say that the crisis is real enough. Please stand with families of Westchester now. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Corselli. Any questions for Ms. Corselli?
Hi, I just want to thank you for your testimony, and it was very thoughtful. It was very well laid out, and I'm glad that you wound up on your feet.
Thank you so
Best
much.
of
I
luck.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
I also wanted to thank you for being willing to voice a very uncomfortable truth that that oftentimes is hard for people to acknowledge when they've been going through tough times. And I'm glad that you said that it's not personal and it's not because you failed or that, you did something wrong. The problem is that we have a systemic issue that needs to be addressed. You mentioned about the 78 vouchers. That's for the entire county?
For the entire county under the Housing Access Voucher Program, which passed the New York State budget. But we got so few, and they went to people that were already in shelter placement, and we had no opportunity to apply for those vouchers. It was determined by, I believe CHV is running that program in White Plains, who was going to get it and who was not. So even people in shelter placement couldn't themselves apply. They were picked who was going to receive the vouchers and who was not.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The next person on my list is Mr. Jean DeResta.
Mr. Stecker.
Oh, Mr. DeResta, 1 minute, please. I see that some new people have come in after we started, so if anybody wants to speak, please sign your name here.
Right.
And as I said before, people who are representing themselves have 3 minutes. People representing an organization have 5 minutes. Please adhere to the time. Mr. Stecker will have a timer, and when you hear that timer, please try to stop, and we can give you a little more time, but in the interest of time and giving opportunity to everybody, because we have too many people today, more than usual. So please continue, Mr. DeResta.
Good evening. I've given you a document which is comprehensive. I will not be able to explain in great detail the results that I'm going to present to you from it. I'm a mathematician. As part of the financial modeling study that I intend to submit for publication, I derived a set of equations to perform a multi-purpose analysis of the financial data within the HCR 26 I&E report. My analysis objectives were to characterize the HCR report and determine if, in fact, it reflects the I&E of the Westchester ETPA units. 2, investigate the profitability claims ETPA units are financially sound. 3, justify the 2026% rent increase ask being submitted to the Rent Guideline Board for 1-year lease. And then I decided to derive for you an equation to help you identify the percent rent increase for a 2-year lease. So now my summary in front of you summarizes some of these findings. The methodology that I used was to develop a mathematical model comprised of financial equations that were derived using economic modeling principles with assumptions justified in the literature and consistent with the New York State ETPA legislation. The equations focused on the estimation of 2 variables, total income and total expenses that are required by the 2 financial metrics, net operating income and cost to income ratio used by HCR to assess financial performance of ETPA units. My findings, the I&E report for this year and its reflections of the fiscal position, the variables for the NOI and CTR. As far as the total income is concerned, the inclusion of rental income from non-ETPA units and non-rental income streams with ETPA unit rental incomes exaggerate the total income generated by ETPA units. Using the model's income equations, the 2025 ETPA total income variable was estimated for a variety of ownership scenarios by the exclusion of model calculated non-ETPA rental income and non-rental income streams. The total expense variable, the value associated with ETPA units, cannot be determined directly from the HCR because HCR combines expenses for all units. The expense equations derived using assumptions related to plausible percent allocations of ETPA produced an array of realistic ETPA total expense values. When the ETPA specific income and expense variables were used to compute the 2 metrics, For every credible scenario tested, a smaller NOI and larger OER, that's the operating expense ratio, resulted than values reported by the HCR report. Findings from the analysis of just one scenario are reported in this testimony. This particular scenario estimates the 2025 ETPA rental income and total expenses without considering depreciation and interest. Repairs and maintenance expenses were apportioned by the property owner. All other expenses are distributed equally to all units. All ETPA leases are assumed to be 1 year and begin January 1st. The HCR's net operating income shown in their report is 86.6K. With the computational scheme that I have, the NOI for ETPA is 63.6K. The cost to income ratio, also referred to as operating expense, is 69.2 versus the HCR 64.3. Reported back. To put these OER values in context, the desirable OER range for a multifamily rental property should be between 30 and 50%. There's a figure on page 2. Okay, this figure. In the upper right-hand corner on the blue line, there's a cross. The data points that I gave you are on that, represent that particular location. In the box below it, you'll see what is the desirable OER range, and there is no way that we can achieve that acceptability range. Profitability. A NYU Stern annually tabulates historical growth for U.S. businesses. The metric they use is compound annual growth rate, computed with 5 prior years of data for each business. From the recent tabulation, that's January 2026, the total market without financial summary value for net income for the last 5 years is 13.21%. This is the average CAGR for the past 5 years, computed using a sampling of 4,822 U.S. businesses. Within this column, the category real estate operations and services, whose sample size is 54, displays a value of minus 5.83%. Using only the data in the HCR 2026 report for the last 5 years, my model computes a CAGR of minus 2.39 when the New York State inflation rate is of 3.62 is convolved into that. I compute a value of minus 5.8%.
Mr. DeResta, I know it's very hard to hear, but the alarm went off and your time is up. Any questions for Mr. DeResta?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's
So I just wanted to know, can you simplify, what does this all boil down to? What is the ask? Because you've
what is
indicated.
the ask? Okay. The ask that my model computes. I'm a mathematician, as I said, and I use predictive AI, which I've been using for 50 years. The ask with the data that's in the HCR is 3.54%. The AOAC has asked for 4.2%. So the basis, but mathematically, the ask, and that holds the line at the 2025 level. No profit. It holds the line right where the data is as shown in your report. You need 3.54% to stay right where we are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor DeResta. Question.
Yep.
How many buildings do you own? How many buildings do you own?
2
Great. Where are they?
Yonkers.
How many units?
One has 22, the other has 2 in a store.
Great.
The one is, and they're all ETPA.
Every one of them.
Is ETPA, no other rental income, just ETPA.
Okay, great. How long have you owned them for?
The buildings have been in my family for over 50 years, maybe 70 years.
70 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When was the last time your buildings turned a profit?
We work on a marginal basis. As a professor, I was a full professor at NYU.
You know, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to,
We break even and make some.
okay.
It's, you know, so yes, there's a profit. Are we in that 30 to 50% range? No, we are not.
Okay. Would your tenants say that you're a good landlord?
They would call me a hard ass, just
They-
like my students do.
They would say you're firm but fair.
Yeah.
Firm
I'm a
but
hard
fair.
ass. Yeah, you know, I follow the letter and when possible, the spirit of the law.
Good. Do you have a lot of turnover in your building?
No.
Well, that's an indication, I
no,
would
we-
imagine,
We
right?
don't, in fact. We have some tenants.
So they seem to be happy enough for you staying
20
there.
Years, yeah.
Okay. Great. To your knowledge, and again, please, I know that this is chit chat in the hallways, but does everybody seem to think that the rent is somewhat fair, or do you get a lot of complaints about the rent?
No complaints about the rents because we are significantly less than that average monthly legal rent that was posted.
Got it. So you're a hard ass, but you're fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I repair the refrigerators, the stoves. I'm also an engineer, a PE. So I do a lot of the repairs to hold down, washing machines I've repaired. So I do a lot of that to save wherever we can.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate it.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Please don't.
Next person is Monica Valencia. I understand that Ms. Valencia is going to need an interpreter.
Sorry, I'm not.
Are you the interpreter of Ms. Valencia? Yes.
Is her
So
the speaker tonight? Yeah.
she's representing herself
Yeah.
as individual? I'm going to, because of the translation, I'm going to give her 5 minutes.
I will. Yeah, I will. So in this occasion, she's requesting that you allow me to read the documents for her on her behalf because a health condition. She's not able to do it.
All right.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Then you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Can I have a brief introductions? So I'm Jeffrey Reyes and I'm a community organizer at Make the Road. Make the Road. So, and we are an organization with 28,000 members, well organized in New York City, in New York State. So 3 of our members are here because they are tenants and they want to testify. So I just want to have one questions to you because Westchester is a county composed by a huge Hispanic community of Hispanic origin. They speak Spanish. Most of them speak only Spanish. So my question is like how you guys communicate that this hearing is happening so that they can know and they can attend. Because many people don't know this is happening today. And we concerned because they are tenants, and if you are deciding the rent, if you are deciding about the rent, I think it's fair that tenants across the county can attend if they want. I know if they want, right? So yeah, that's my question to you, and yeah, later on we can have but thanks a lot for hosting us today. Yeah. Okay. So Monica. Can I have yours in English? All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Monica Valencia, and I am a member of Make the Road, New York. I live at 127 Feature Avenue in White Plains, New York. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today as a tenant. I am here to urge the Westchester County Rent Guidelines Board to reject the rent increase and freeze the rent. I have lived in my apartment for the past 3 years. During that time, my rent has increased from 2,500 per month to 2,800 per month, an increase of more than 15%. My rent has increased several times over the past few years, while my wage have not kept pace. My salary remains the same, even as the cost of living continues to rise. Today, I spend more than half of my income on housing. After paying rent, there is very little left for groceries, transportation, utilities, healthcare, and other basic necessities. In White Plains, the cost of everyday life has gone up significantly. Food prices continue to rise. Utility bills are higher. Transportation costs more. And healthcare expenses keep increasing. There are not luxuries. They are essential expenses that every resident must pay. I live alone in a small apartment, and every month I have to carefully manage my budget just to cover my basic needs. Like many tenants, I am constantly worried about unexpected expenses because there is very little room left in my budget after paying rent. What is especially frustrating is that despite these rent increases, I have not seen meaningful improvement in my apartment. The conditions of my unit are essentially the same as when I moved in 3 years ago. When maintenance issues arise, tenants often have to wait a long time for repairs and service. If rents continue to increase year after year, tenants should at least see improvement in the quality of their housing. Unfortunately, that has not been my experience. A small increase may seem insignificant, but for tenants who are already struggling with rising costs, every increase matters. For me, another rent increase will create additional financial hardship and make it even more difficult to afford basic necessities. It will also increase my fear that I may eventually be forced to leave my home. It is certain that if the increase continue, this will force me to leave White Plains because there are very few affordable apartments available in the area. When rents continue to rise faster than wages, working people are pushed out of the communities they call home. We should not have to choose between paying rent and paying food, healthcare, or transportation. I believe the board should take into account the realities facing tenants today: stagnant wage, rising living costs, and severe shortage of affordable housing. I respectfully ask the board to reject a proposed rent increase and protect tenants by freezing the rent. Working people in White Plains and throughout Westchester County need relief, not higher rent.
Okay,
Thank you.
your time is up. Yeah, thank you. Hey, please stay at the podium.
Sure. Monica?
Ms. Santiago has a question.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi. Mónica, Miss Valencia. Yo quería saber cuántas veces usted ha vivido ahí 3 años. En esos 3 años, ¿cuántas veces ha subido la renta? I'm asking in the 3 years she's lived there, how many times has the rent gone up?
¿Cuántas?
Cada año sube la renta. Cada año
Ujú.
que se, un ejemplo, si entré en diciembre, el diciembre siguiente me sube la renta y otra vez. Y no quieren reparar nada.
Do you want to translate it?
Yes, please.
Or you want me to
No,
translate?
you are,
translate,
you are.
All right. So every year I have rent increase.
Can I,
So,
I want to summarize because, yeah, I think it's the same.
yes.
Every year, the rent
Sir,
It's increasing.
if we could ask you to actually do a translation fully, not a summarization, we need to hear the answer from the tenant who's
I
actually
can do that.
speaking. So
Sure.
please refrain from summarizing, just translate what she answers, please.
All right, she's saying that every month my rent is increasing. No, sorry, every year my rent is increasing since I'm living in this unit. So they increased last year, they have increased this year, and I'm expecting an increase next year.
Mr. Whit,
Can you just please ask her if it's a rent stabilized apartment?
El edificio donde usted vive es un edificio que se considera como rent stabilized, como lo que estamos.
Casa de 6 apartamentos.
She lives in a 6-family house.
Yeah,
So that is,
Well, is it stabilized or not? I mean, is it ETPA or not?
this is not, as I explained, you were not here at the beginning when I, explained that this hearing is for rent stabilized units. Strictly, ETPA, Emergency Tenant Protection Act. Those are buildings that were built before 1974 and are under this jurisdiction. Each jurisdiction in Westchester chooses to be under this program. If that house is not in this program, we have nothing to do with this. So
Yes.
if your other persons that are here are in the same situation, I will have to ask them not to do the presentation because there's nothing we can do about it. This is only ETPA. We cannot do anything about anything else,
ella está
any
diciendo
other rents.
los programas de ETPA son los que cubren las casas en donde todos ustedes viven, entonces esto es como que solo para casas que estén bajo el programa de ETPA. Lo único es que ellos están preguntándole, por ejemplo, a usted que si usted conoce si su edificio está bajo la regla, el programa de protección de ETPA, que es algo que, o sea, es algo que ustedes no saben ni siquiera. Ya, ¿quiere usted decir algo con respecto a la importancia que informar? Porque muchos de ustedes, por ejemplo, viven en edificios que ustedes no siquiera conocen muchas de estas cosas porque los propietarios no se lo informan.
Ok, solamente quisiera agregar algo, que los dueños de las casas o de los apartamentos nunca informan a los inquilinos si tienen cobertura o algo para no tener problemas.
So landlords appropriately never told tenants if the buildings are covered by protections like ETPA, as you mentioned.
How can they find out?
So this is the question to you.
Indeed, yeah.
Que ellos tampoco saben si es un edificio de 6
just-
apartamentos. ¿verdad?
Excuse me, our council has
Go ahead,
some
yeah.
comments.
Yeah, so that would be something that, ma'am, she would be able to contact the State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, see if there's been any registration history and see if there's any evidence that this building is under stabilization. I didn't miss, or I missed how many units are actually in the building? Six. Okay, so it very well could be,
Seis
it could be
Six
stabilized.
apartments.
Yeah,
6 apartments.
it
So-
could very well be stabilized depending on the municipality.
Can you give us the address again?
Sorry?
la
The address,
dirección.
the building
Oh.
where she lives. We can find out if it's
La,
on the-
sí, la dirección.
427 Fisher Avenue, Wayne Plains.
127 Fisher Avenue in White Plains.
Okay, we'll find out and we'll let you know.
Es como esa casa tiene 6 apartamentos, pero la dividen en 3 pisos. Está como declarada 3 pisos solamente, no 6 apartamentos.
I'm sorry, but I will have to
Right.
call the next person because we have 20 people who want to speak and we have to give time to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
You.
Next person is Sandra Borducci.
Before I begin, is this mic? It's very hard to hear. With the
Yeah.
air blowing, everything sounds lower.
Yes, I know
Can we shut
we
it
were
off for
trying
the
to-
moment?
but
just
the
for like 10
consensus
minutes?
was that it's too hot and people don't want to be.
Maybe if we just shut it off for a little while so people can hear?
What do,
Is the fan on it? Is the fan on its lowest?
what we can do, to please everybody, just turn it off for 3 or 4 minutes and see how if we can hear better. And if it gets too hot, then we'll turn it on again. Mr. Stecker? Yeah, I know it's very loud because people can't hear the alarm when it goes on. Okay. Are you representing yourself or an entity?
An organization.
Organization, okay. You
Good
have 3
evening.
minutes.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Borducci. I'm an attorney. I was born and raised in Mount Vernon. I represent owners of rent-stabilized housing in Westchester County, only rent-stabilized ETPA units. I'm here today because rent-stabilized property owners have reached a breaking point, and at this time, only this board has the power to stop the slide. Let me give you the math first, because the math does not lie. Since 2020, this board has approved cumulative rent increases of just 8% on one-year leases. 8% over 6 years is 1.3% a year. Meanwhile, cumulative inflation, which affects everybody else in the world, over that same period has hit 21.5%. That's a gap of 14 points, absorbed entirely by rent-stabilized housing providers, while our costs have compounded year after year with no relief valve in sight. New York's own Court of Appeals said it plainly in Casado versus New York City NYC Rent Guidelines Board in 2011 that small annualized authorized increases do not come close to covering increased costs. That was 15 years ago. Things have gotten dramatically worse since then, thanks to the small annual increases from this board and largely due to the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019. I'd rename it the Housing Destruction Act because that's what it has done. If the board continues to ignore the costs that are ruining our properties and running them to the ground, our group of property owners will have to mobilize an Article 78 proceeding. What used to work and no longer does? Before the HSTPA of 2019, we had real tools to improve properties, vacancy increases, deregulation thresholds when rents reached market levels, meaningful IAIs or individual apartment improvement recovery. Today, gone. All of it effectively annihilated. IAIs are now only allow us to recover 1/180th of a renovation cost. That means kitchen and bathroom renovations are guaranteed financial losses, so we don't do them. You get the kitchen from 1968 because the math does not work. The major capital improvement process. It is very sad. The DHCR reduces our verified costs to what they think is reasonable, caps them at 2%, lets us spread the recovery over decades. A building constructed 6 years ago, during which the board's stated job is to allow landlords to maintain it, can barely just repair a roof. The real costs, balcony replacements, 12 balconies, almost $500,000. New elevator machine and cables, $45K. Burner replacements and temporary hot water, $26K. Roof replacement, $164K. Partial brick pointing, $26K. Partial waterproofing, $20K. Parking lot resurfacing, $112K. New laundry machines, over $8K. These are not vanity improvements. These are things that keep a building standing, that keep the heat running, the elevators moving, roof sealed, balconies from falling off the facade onto tenants' cars. And general liability insurance. Wow, since 2020, our premiums have risen over 50%. At just one of our buildings, we were paying $17,000 more per year than we were 5 years ago. High interest rates have made borrowing for capital work prohibitively expensive. Every single cost line has gone up. Tenants want a rent freeze. How does this work in the real world? Affordable housing, they should build it new because our buildings need a ton of money to get functioning again. Okay? And insurance companies know it. And not only that, the New York State lead rent registry now has us inspecting for lead, $147,000 for the building, $2,500 per unit. Now, we just did a lead test. Luckily, it came back clear. But if it didn't, our cost would be $2.3 million to clean up the whole building. Really? And the New York State, the Westchester County Board of Legislators set aside $10 million for landlord repairs for all the landlords. That's not a lot. It costs $500,000 for balconies. So that's it. We're requesting 4.2% for 1-year leases in 2026 as a necessity.
How much is it?
4.2%. 1-year leases.
What about 2 years? Double it?
I don't know. Whatever you think is reasonable.
Do
I-
we have a question?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Borducci. Thank you for your testimony. Question, how long have you been practicing law in this particular focus?
2004,
Okay.
I was a construction litigator
Okay.
when I started.
And representing right now ETPA landlords?
That's correct.
the whole
No
time?
market rate, no market. And we have a lot of preferential rents, just so you know. So they're below the legal rents.
Got it. Right now, in your client portfolio, what would you say the percentage of your clients right now, obviously without mentioning names, are having financial difficulty carrying those buildings? Would you say are in distress?
I'd say 2 for sure are in distress.
2 of your clients for sure are in
Yes.
distress. Okay.
We can't afford to do, we're deferring repairs. It's not fair to tenants. It's not fair to us. This is not working. Of course, we care about people and we care about if they can pay rent and also pay for groceries, but not all tenants are in the same boat. We don't go auditing tenants. We don't ask them, well, what do you get in cash? And, what, do you have a husband? And do you have an inheritance? We don't ask those questions. We don't ask any of them anything. But the landlords are scrutinized to all hell, and we're like not in a good boat.
Got it.
Our boat's got a lot of holes.
Understood. And in the past 3 years, what have you seen in the form of deed transfers, meaning people getting out of ETPA buildings?
Who wants to buy these? If I have to buy a building and get a mortgage, I'm not going to make any money anytime. They're like, oh, your building's rent stabilized. We don't want it. We're going to another state. We're going to invest in Florida. In Texas, nobody wants rent stabilized buildings. We get calls. They want our buildings in Connecticut. But Connecticut, they don't know the taxes are being jacked up to all hell. $300,000, $400,000 on a small portfolio, 180 units. That's a lot of money. On top of everything, elevators go down. You have 2 elevators in a building, that's going to cost you $400,000. And with zero rent increases, that's really hard. That's like, are you a magician now? Are you going to sell your buildings and just invest in SpaceX.
So
And who's going to buy these buildings? Someone who's going to be really cheap and not put any money into the building because it's going to go nowhere. You're going to lose money here in New York.
Thank you for your
You're
testimony.
welcome.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I just had a question.
Yes.
So what are the locations of the buildings you're referring to?
Okay, so I referred to several different areas, but we have 6 rent stabilized buildings, purely rent stabilized in Mount Vernon, which is 10552, 10550, and in Yonkers, 10705. And some of those are hit by the New York State lead registration, which is, it's gonna kill us. It's really just out of control. You can't just inspect one unit and say, yeah, there's no lead paint. You gotta inspect every unit for every 3 years? Who has the money for that? We don't have, look at this crowd. No one has the money for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Antoinette Rose. No? Miss Rose? She's not here? No? Oh. Miss Rose? Antoinette Rose? Ms. Rose, are you representing yourself or an organization?
Organization.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Should I end my testimony?
Do,
The copies. Good evening, board members and fellow citizens. My name is Antoinette Rose. I live in Mount Vernon and I work for the Montefiore Medical Center in Terrytown. I am a proud delegate for 1199 SEIU, the country's largest healthcare workers union, with over 450,000 members, over 12,000 of whom live in Westchester County. I have appeared before this board several times to tell you about how hard it's been for me and my healthcare workers. I'm back again today to respectfully request that you freeze rent for Westchester tenants. Like my 1199 coworkers, I go to work every day to help people. Our members are frontline caregivers in hospitals, nursing homes, home cares, clinics, pharmacies, and all other areas of healthcare industry. We are the healthcare heroes that saved lives during the pandemic, and we continue to care for those who need our help. Tenants are getting squeezed from every direction. Food, rent, gas, electricity, childcare, insurance, public transportation, everything is so expensive. My rent-stabilized one-bedroom apartment costs $2,055.82 a month, and I pay more than half of my income for rent. Although I have been with Montefiore for over 20 years, it's still a struggle to pay my rent every month. Owners are asking for 4.2 for 1-year lease renewals, but most working people's salaries aren't increasing up with inflation. The increases 1199 workers fought hard to secure in 2024 are barely enabling us to stay afloat. Overtime is hard to come by, and many full-time workers already have additional part-time jobs to make ends meet. Where do they expect us to get the money from? As if the stress of making enough money to pay rent isn't enough, AI has come to Montefiore. Longtime employees are being pressured to retire, and many of their positions aren't being replaced. More productivity is being expected from fewer employees, and many people are afraid to push back on unrealistic demands for fear of losing their jobs. Many of my coworkers live in rent-stabilized buildings, and they too are struggling to pay rent, especially those with jobs like being a home health aide, which usually pays only slightly above minimum wage. Many of us regularly visit food pantries despite working full-time. It just isn't fair. Please recognize the plight that so many tenants find ourselves in because there just isn't enough affordable housing to go around. We don't choose to be severely rent burdened, but it's better than being homeless. If you truly appreciate the sacrifices that healthcare workers made to help people every day, then please help struggling rent stabilized tenants by freezing rent this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Ms. Rose, please stay. Any questions? No? Thank you. Next person is Dana Cosenza.
Pictures. Okay, my name is Donna Cosenza. I am speaking as an individual landlord. My husband and I own an 8-unit apartment building in Hastings.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. We have owned it for 42 years, but the building is over 60 years old. And yes, we know each and every tenant by name and face, and they have my personal cell phone number on speed dial. As a small building owner, I'd like to bring several items to your attention. For the past several years, insurance costs have increased by 38.6%, 22.7%, and 22.9%. This year, the insurance carrier declined to renew our policy. This was not due to anything that we did or did not do. They updated their underwriting criteria. They don't want a building with 3 floors. They don't want a building with more than 6 units. They make it up as they go along, I think. I don't know. Anyway, there are very few carriers left who continue to insure apartment buildings. We finally were able to insure the building with an increase of 17.5%. So taxes also keep increasing. We just received a notice of assessment. The change is going to be an increase of 6.6%. We have filed a certiorari, needless to say. Secondly, we had a 5-year bad experience with a tenant family. I passed around these pictures for you to look at. As you can see, all of the walls that were originally painted white, my husband's favorite wall color, are now a strange gray, notwithstanding all the crayon markings. It took 3 coats of paint to cover the walls. In addition, the stove was completely unusable. There was grease and mold everywhere, even inside the refrigerator. The stove had no knobs left, and then there were no covers on the burners. You'll see in the pictures. We worked for 3 months to make the space livable for the next tenants. That's a 3-month loss of rent. Needless to say, the departing tenants received none of their security back. That deposit covered less than half of the cost of the renovations. These same tenants also caused a flood 4 years ago, which ruined the bathroom ceiling and walls below them, as well as the entire living room ceiling of the lowest apartment. Insurance paid only a portion of the claim, and that's the only claim we've ever had in 42 years. Some of the tenants have taken it on themselves to alter their space. One put up additional walls to fashion another bedroom. A different couple put a door on their living room to make it a bedroom and took in 2 more adults who are not on the lease. They should not live there if we don't have them on the lease. Now, 30 years ago, we put on a new 30-year roof. How they tell that, I don't know. The roof has no leaks. It's just been checked, but the insurance carriers are wary of the life of the roof. We should replace the roof, the gutters again, the windows again. But where is this money going to come from? With 2 or 3% increase, we can't do it. There's a building boom where I live in northern Westchester. The newest 5-story, 148-unit building for senior living has offered rents of $3,164 for a 1-bedroom for seniors and $3,824 for a two-bedroom apartment. Just down the road, construction has begun on a 51-unit apartment building. A mile further down offers new condominium rentals. They have saved 5 units for affordable housing, $2,500 for one bedroom and $3,000 for a two-bedroom. Now, obviously, construction costs have increased, but how are we, the older building owners, supposed to keep our buildings in good condition with these 2% or no increase? I realize that you, the Guidelines Board, did not take away our vacancy increase. I would suggest to the state that we desperately need it back. Maybe not 19 or 20%, but how about 9 or 10%? We used to use that to improve the living spaces. As it is now, we do everything ourselves except for when we put on the roof, we did the windows, we put the new parking lot in. That's the only thing we didn't do ourselves. Everything else we do. The stated numbers are real. We need significant increase in order to maintain and update our buildings. Instead of punishing us, New York State should direct its attention to attracting businesses for people to work that owners and that employ large numbers of people. Here are some numbers for you, really down and dirty. Insurance. I divided all these numbers out. The annual increase divided by 12 months divided by my 8 tenants. Insurance, $23 a month per tenant. Taxes, $15 a month per tenant. Water, $7 a month per tenant. Gas heating, $10 a month per tenant. That's a total of $55 per month per tenant. Now, the average rent in our building is $1,562 a month. If you vote a 2% increase, that translates to $31, a cost shortfall of $24 a month. This is obviously unacceptable. Rather than, again, punishing us, tell Madam Hochul, bring in business, bring in work, help the people. Don't punish us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Sir. 42 years. I would think so. As I said, they have my number on speed dial.
You have a large turnover in?
No. Pretty much, yeah. I just had one leave and I'm telling you, the place is impeccable. They even painted before they left. I mean, they were wonderful. They only left because she got engaged and they're moving to California. But this was somebody else this was a horror. And we've only had a few horrors over those 42 years. I think 3 that were that bad. This year, no. This year was a loss. But year before that, a little bit of a loss. The year before that, maybe a little profit. And that's doing, like I said, everything ourselves. No. No. I'm yeah. Yes. Yes.
I just have a question about the previous tenant that we saw the pictures of the apartment. How long were they there?
5 years.
Sorry?
5 years.
5 years, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes. Thank you. I will now call Genevieve Roche.
This good? Yes. Okay. Good evening, members of the board, Supervising Attorney Stecker. My name is Genevieve Roach, and I am a former tenant rep on this board. And until 11 days ago, I was the Director of Operations at Mount Vernon United Tenants. I'm also a founder of the nascent Westchester United Tenants, as well as longtime counsel at Westchester Plaza Tenants Coalition, representing more than 650 rent-stabilized households. Over the last 16 years, I've provided this board with my analysis of the owner survey numbers, net operating income, as well as rates of poverty and unemployment, numbers of the severely rent burdened, and other relevant demographics for the 80% of the county's 29,000 rent-stabilized households who live in lower Westchester's municipalities of Mount Vernon, Yonkers, and New Rochelle. I've distributed tonight an abbreviated version of my usual handouts from which you can draw the obvious conclusions. Low and moderate income tenants are suffering. Indeed, 55% of all county renters pay more than 30% of gross income on rent, the very definition of unaffordable. While according to owner surveys, landlords continue to profit to the tune of a consistent 4-year average net operating income close to 36%. The numbers are self-explanatory and continue to reflect the dire affordable housing crisis currently facing renter households in the county struggling to pay rent. The situation is all the more acute for the nearly 1 in 4 renter households in Lower Westchester who earn less than $35,000 a year, and income only considered enough to afford a monthly rent of $875. Yet at $1,676, the average rent-stabilized rent is now nearly double that. But tonight, I am not going to talk about the numbers. Tonight, I'm going to talk about my personal experience over the last 18 months supervising the burgeoning caseload at Mount Vernon United Tenants. The statistics have always impressed upon me the immense struggle facing seniors, the disabled, those just starting out, those enduring temporary job loss or an unexpected family or medical emergency, and just your average worker struggling to keep a roof over his or her family's heads amid rising inflation. But that on-paper understanding of this crisis is nothing compared to the day-to-day reality I've experienced serving individual tenants, real human beings, folks struggling, panicked, one emergency away from being on the street or in a shelter. Tomorrow, I try the case of a 68-year-old home health care worker who for many years was able to pay her rent until a workplace injury. Someone who now has glaucoma, causing her to hobble tentatively with a cane, and who, without that earned income, lives on a single Social Security check of $1,300 a month. She's a subtenant in a rent-stabilized, illusory prime tenancy situation, and we have been fighting for almost a year to get the landlord to give her the renewal lease to which she is legally entitled. Without that lease in her name, the owner has perversely prevented her from receiving the DSS assistance that would have covered her arrears before they got so large. We see it time and again, landlords who obstruct renewal leases so they can evict a longtime tenant. Another example, also a senior, who deferred her own rent so she could cover her adult daughter's serious medical expenses, resulting in arrears. She makes enough to cover her rent of $1,295, but before seeking our assistance, she unwisely signed a settlement stip mandating an unrealistic lump sum payment that meant certain eviction. We were able to rescue the situation, but there are so many other cases that come through our doors where the landlord is trying to evict a senior or a disabled or other longtime resident so they can raise the rent. Earlier this year, a working mother who gave birth in January but had no paid maternity leave believed she had reached an upfront agreement with the landlord to pay the 3 months unpaid rent over time after she promptly went back to work in April. Then, just last week, she and her 5-month-old found themselves facing imminent eviction because even after she obtained government assistance that would cover all the arrears, she found herself $1,012 short, with the landlord pushing hard for a final judgment and eviction because DSS was taking too long to process the guaranteed payments. Fortunately, the judge found this as ridiculous as we did. The stress these tenants face is unimaginable. Finally, there's the Mount Vernon Thanksgiving fire that displaced 100 households in the Cottage Park Avenue buildings. The situation for these longtime tenants, many of whom lost everything, is tragic enough, with many still trying to find affordable substitute housing pending repairs. But what is really unacceptable is the tactical move by owners returning the more convenient one-time lump sum payments made by tenants to cover 24 months of the $1 legal monthly rent, hoping these overwhelmed tenants might inadvertently miss a single $1 a month payment and lose their legal right to return to their apartment. These are single incidents, but trust me, I could regale you with so many more examples of tenants who we assist who are seriously struggling to pay their rent.
Ms. Genevieve, your time is up, but I'm going to let you continue.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're struggling to pay their rent, any increases to which this board determines. For the 1 in 4 tenants who can only afford $875 a month and are doing everything they can to avoid losing a rent-stabilized apartment costing twice what they can reasonably afford, every single dollar of additional rent will crater the delicate balance they have devised to keep a roof over their heads. I say it every year. There is no need to increase rents when the landlord's own numbers show a consistent 36% NOI. Look at it this way. This board's adding the 4% proposed increase to the average 1676 rent will garner landlords an extra $23.7 million on top of the consistent 36% NOI. Yet, that extra $67 added to the average rent may well be just the one thing on top of inflation or an unexpected life event that breaks the delicate balance, puts a tenant into arrears, and subjects them and the community to another unnecessary eviction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
As always, excellent job. I know you focus more on the human side of the story this time, but I gather even with the summary of the numbers also are consistent in terms of overall, because this is not any individual owner. This is owners writ large. This is the data that we get from the statisticians. The net operating income is still steady, correct?
It is steady. It's almost exactly the same over the last 4 years. And I've done the calculation on top of what the DHCR provided.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Roche, for your testimony. You mentioned that landlords sometimes obstruct the renewal of leases. Could you tell me how often that happens and how can they legally do so?
Well, I can only comment obviously on what I've handled myself and in our office over the last 18 months. But I would say, the people coming in, that the renewal leases, lack of renewal leases, and all the different varieties that they take is a prominent problem. But what I'd like to focus you on, if I may, is I made a point about these examples because they're ones that I personally handled. This trial I have tomorrow is, I am brokenhearted if this woman with glaucoma gets evicted. She has nowhere to go. She is from Ghana. Her children all live in Ghana. She will be in a shelter. And the point I'm making is not so much about, I'm not saying that all landlords are bad landlords. The real underpinning of my argument is people are one unexpected event away from eviction. They cannot pay another dollar. And then you add to that what we see coming into our office every day, compounding people are in tears. They are, there's just no way to describe what this year and a half has meant for me. I've been doing this. I've been a tenant advocate for 40 years. I've been working with dentists for 16. Right? Doing, the numbers are the numbers. And, as a lawyer, they have meaning to me, but actually doing this work and seeing how every additional dollar in rent impacts these people, particularly those 23% in Lower Westchester make less than $35,000 a year. I really want to make sure you guys understand that a 4% increase, we're going to have more people in our office. We've already had more people in our office than we've ever encountered before. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Roche.
Hi.
Thank you for your testimony. Especially the part about what's going on the human side of it. I admire you for the work that you do in regards to that, and I am certainly not, although I am a landlord advocate, I am not going to stand up here and defend rotten landlords, okay? Because they, quite frankly, don't deserve our representation nor the fight that we are, or at least the efforts that we're trying to afford them. I will take exception, however, with your testimony when it comes to your quote of 36% profitability, and I'm going to tell you why. I've heard your testimony before, and like you, I am in the industry, and a synonym for ROI is profit, and profit is a synonym for ROI, and that includes mortgage and depreciation. And you continue to state that, quite frankly, those numbers should not be involved or included in the calculations. And I think that's a disingenuous way of representing it, because what it makes it look like, in my opinion, is that these landlords are receiving a 36% profit margin when 50% of the buildings in Westchester have a mortgage on it. And I'm not talking about a 400 or 500 unit building. I'm talking about a 6-unit building in Yonkers. I'm talking about an 11-unit building in Mount Vernon. Those buildings have mortgages on it because not everybody can buy a building cash. So quite frankly, to say that not taking into consideration mortgage debt, I think is wrong. And I just want to be on the record for saying that, because it moves the number from 36 to what I feel is a much more reasonable number. And listen, you can look it up in the Real Estate Institute of New York. I mean, the bottom line is the definition of ROI is net of mortgage and depreciation. So don't go by what I say. But thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. I would, in response, simply say we've had this debate every single year. Last year in particular, I passed out many handouts. ROI is not operating expenses, and this board, under the law, computes net operating expenses in terms of how much more tenants should pay for that. If you landlords are concerned with your return on investment, either get into the stock market or give the tenants a share in that. And that's all I'm going to say. Okay, thank you.
Next person in my list is Suzanne Johnson.
Hey, good
Just
evening, everyone.
Representing yourself or an entity?
I'm a property manager for a company.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the Rent Guidelines Board. My name is Suzanne Johnson. I help run a company that owns and manages its own properties in Southwest Yonkers and Mount Vernon. I'm a U.S. veteran. I joined the military straight out of Mount Vernon High School and left home for 17 years. While I was in the Navy, I was a tenant myself and rented apartments and houses wherever I was stationed. I came back home to help my mom and dad run their properties. I take great pride in continuing to care for the people in this community. When a tenant calls my office, they don't get a call tree or a secretary, they get me. I'm answering the phone. I have a deep sense of service and hold myself accountable for the decisions I have to make every day. In the past 6 years since COVID, I have not displaced one family in all our properties. It just doesn't happen. People who have bad luck, they get help. Our seniors are on scree. Cluster comes to the rescue, or Catholic Charities. There's tons of programs in Westchester County to help our tenants. We've been in this business for about 50 years. 97% of our apartments are rent stabilized. They range from $368 a month to a little more than $2,000. So it's a really small range. Almost 95% of my tenants pay rent on time and in full each month, which is great. A few years ago, we discovered a service to help our tenants get credit for their monthly rent. So every time they pay rent, it gets sent to the credit bureau. It's called Cred Hub. And we pay for this perk ourselves for the benefit of our tenants. So they build up their credit score for every time they pay rent. You know what that means? I lose a lot of tenants to buying houses. Last week, we had a tenant, a family of 5, move out of their 2-bedroom after 17 years to buy a house on Sawmill River Road. That's pretty cool. I really didn't want to come here tonight. We come year after year begging. I don't want to give you a laundry list of everything that it costs us to run these properties. We wish we could put more money into our properties. We just don't have it. We don't have the nice to have kitchens, bathrooms, appliances, you know, the new wallpaper in the lobby. That's not happening. That's not happening. Year after year, we have told you that without a proper rent increase, all of these rent stabilized buildings that provide necessary housing in Westchester County will be in jeopardy. I am here with all these others sounding the alarm. The situation is dire. Your vote will have severe consequences if you continue again to deny a fair rent increase. We are asking at a minimum 4.2 for a 1-year lease. Unfortunately, the people who suffer the most from the cumulative decisions of this board are my tenants. They want to know why they can't have a new parking lot paved. They want to know why the elevator is not always running. Over 29,000 rent-stabilized renters are at your mercy. We really ask you to please use your best judgment in making this decision. And I just want to say one thing. If a tenant leaves their apartment, there is no more vacancy increase. We can't get more rent for that apartment. So that was something someone said earlier. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any question for Ms. Johnson? I have a question for you.
Sure.
How many buildings do you own?
I don't own them, but I manage 6 in New York.
6. And how many units? And
About 300.
and where are they mostly?
Southwest Yonkers and Mount Vernon.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
You have a good relationship with your tenants, I can tell.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I want to keep it that way.
Do they complain about the rent?
About the cost of the rent?
Yeah.
I got one person, she's a school teacher who now has a few children that is struggling. So I work with her on her increases.
You do?
Yeah, because I like her.
Thank you.
I used to have a little more discretion in what I do, but because of all the new laws, we can't take risks most of the time. I used to be able to help people who made less than 3 times the rent. Now I have to be a stickler because of the way things are. So everything has a consequence, especially in this room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call Diana Lovett. Yeah, and
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of the Mamaroneck Coalition for Affordable Housing. Okay,
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
okay. I'll keep it short because I know you have a lot of people and oh, sorry, no problem. So I attended the meeting that you guys had in New Rochelle, and it was my first time attending one of these meetings. And then afterward, I went home and I read your website and all of the data that you'd collected, and really appreciate that it's shared publicly, including the survey. And I pulled together some observations from looking through it, and your own data paints a very clear picture and supports holding rents flat. Your survey shows that owner finances across Westchester's rent stabilized stock are stable and healthy and not squeezed. Your own cost survey shows landlords keeping roughly a quarter of every rent dollar as cash flow and costs near their lowest share of income in nearly 40 years. And rents already rising modestly on their own. And I thought there was a couple of interesting kind of points in your own data. 25 cents of every dollar in rent became owner cash flow in 2025, according to your survey, and costs are near a 40-year low as a share of income. And your data also showed that the market is already setting modest rents on its own. So when an apartment goes vacant, owners may reset the rent to market, and even then the median increase was just 2.5%. So kind of taking away some conclusions from, again, your own data, the New York State HCR property maintenance survey, BLS, HCR, ETPA, vacancy and registration data, I think it was really clear that a 0% adjustment is sound for both sides. Owners will still retain approximately 60 million in collective cash flow, and that helps to stabilize the 29,000 rent stabilized units when tenants are facing enormous inflation and other rising costs. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lovett? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so the costs are at a 40-year low as a share of income, according the cost to income ratio on your, so yeah, you haven't read all the, yeah, so all of the, oh yeah. So you guys have a bunch of, on the Westchester County Rent Guidelines Board, there's data that's provided to you as a member of the board, including the HCR Property Maintenance and Operation Cost Survey, the HCR Cost to Income Ratio Series. So all of the data is pulled from there. So I would suggest that you review that if you have further questions, because I just reviewed your own data. So it's not my data, it's your data. So if you have questions about it, I would, yeah.
Insurance is up 75%.
Mhm.
Real estate taxes are up. Legal costs are up. I mean, again, I have not seen this. This is, you know, so I don't know what's here, but I know legal costs.
Well, I mean, then you should read your own reports though, because that's not what it says. So I do recommend that on the Westchester County Rent Guidelines, you know, there's several reports that are for your perusal, and I think to help you make this determination. So I would encourage you to read them. That might help explain it to you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Anybody else? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person, Ken Nielsen. Ken Nielsen? He has,
While each of you are getting your copies of the report, there's one page in there that I took out of the law that you're supposed to be following here about, can you hear me? Law that you can follow. And I'm going to list the things that they say this rent guidelines board should be considering. And it says the economic condition of the residential real estate industry and the affected area, the real estate taxes and sewer and water rates, gross operating maintenance costs, including insurance rates, government fees, cost of fuel, labor costs, cost and availability of financing, including effective rates of interest, overall supply of housing accommodations, and overall vacancy rates, relevant data. So these are all the things that I want to talk about because they're the things that are specifically in the law. The law is set up to protect tenants, but also protect the landlords to be able to maintain their buildings. So first is a comparison of the guideline increases. So I'd ask you to flip the pages and take out the chart, which I've had here before, and I've updated it based on the new information, which shows the CPI index since 2010 and the guide as compared with the guidelines that this board has passed. And what's happened is that it's clear that the CPI that we have, which they talk about in the law, you've totally ignored the CPI, which is not a perfect measure by any means. Matter of fact, our costs go up faster than the CPI, but at least the CPI is, and there was a time in the past when the guidelines board, at least on the one-year leases, pretty much followed the CPI. This board has totally ignored it for the last 10 years. So we're falling further and further behind. And one of the things about what happens, and maybe it's relevant to what the ladies talked about before, that operating costs don't seem to be going up even, or each of the items there, is because one of the things that is not going up is maintenance. And the idea is that after you've paid taxes and insurance, mortgages, interest rates, all that other stuff, whatever's left we can use for maintenance, and there's nothing left. So on these old buildings, we should be putting more in each time, but the money is just not there to make these improvements. In addition to that, the state legislature has increased the costs for us because of their allowing things like the scaffold law and the ability of people to sue landlords and get all kinds of benefits. So our costs are going up because of the laws that are coming from New York State. New York State is saying, oh, why are they so high? They're high because of what the state is doing, to say nothing about what some of the other landlords talked about, the new requirement for lead-based paint. It probably is gonna bankrupt some landlords. And we've been doing lead paint abatements for 30 years. So, and it'll affect us as well. So I want to talk about four things. One is the guideline increases. Just look at that chart. I can give you the details here, where from 2010 to 2026, the CPI went up by 42%. The guidelines passed by this board for one-year leases was 22.7%. 7.5% for one-year leases, and lower than that, 17%. So we're falling further and further behind because of the guidelines set by this law, by this board. So if somebody in their apartment is complaining about you can't do everything, well, a lot of it is because the guidelines are set by this board. So you have to realize that if things happen, if you can't upgrade the electricity and you have fires in the building, I don't know, that building in Mount Vernon that went on fire, what was that about? Was that about a lack of maintenance because of the cost? I think the legislature and the board have to take responsibility for bad things that are happening, and them are happening. There was an article about New York City, that more fires in regulated buildings in the Bronx. There are twice as many fires caused by electrical problems in the Bronx this year as opposed to 2 years ago. Our insurance costs are increasing. What's happening is that, I know mine, put it on a per apartment basis. It's gone from $580 a year for an apartment up to as much as $1,400 a year since COVID.
Mr. Nielsen, your
Yeah.
time is up.
Okay.
Can you please wrap up?
All right. I'll make it short.
Thank you.
We talked about, everybody knows interest rates are going up. They're double. Real estate taxes, Yonkers increased it by 4.75%, and my tax bill for the county is 5%. How can you ignore that? That's real cost. That's money out of our pockets. We're just collecting it for the government. And you're ignoring that by passing these ridiculous guidelines. I'd like to go into depreciation is a real expense. And the idea is that, and this is where the lady before talking about depreciation says it's not a cost. It's required by, and Mr. Steckler can say the rules that we're supposed to follow is we should present the information based on our tax returns. And they have very strict rules about how you handle depreciation. And in my package here, I have a sample for one of my buildings, which shows the details of how the depreciation that the items that we depreciate, as opposed to putting it on the expense item. We put it there. So it really, you can't just throw it out and say, oh, it's funny money. It's not. It's real costs.
Thank you.
Last thing I'd like to, is one more thing I'd like to talk about.
Maybe you can address that when if somebody asks you a question.
Yes, maybe a
And
discussion of the letter by the legislature that was handed to this. There's a last piece of yes, I'd like to continue.
But we have a time constraint here. We have too many people waiting. Can you please wrap up in?
Okay. The last sheet of paper here is the outrageous letter that the legislators brought to the last meeting, where they limited the guideline increase to 2%. And what I'm saying is that she quoted in the letter that the cost of housing is increased by 40%, 46% for the period from 2015 to 2025, which sounds outrageous. But during that same period, the CPI increased by 31%. As compared to a guideline increase of 21% for that same period for one-year leases and 10% for two-year leases. So what's happened is that, and the increase on the average rent is because of the luxury housing that has been built in Yonkers, in New Rochelle, White Plains. That's what's pushed up the average rent. We're not talking about that. And the data says that we're averaging what, $1,600 a month.
Thank you.
But I'm happy to answer any questions. If anybody else has a question.
Thank you. I'm going to call this following person. Araceli Barcenas. Oh. I agree with you. It's getting a little hot in here, literally. So I'm going to ask Mr. Stecker to turn on the air conditioning again. Yes.
So she can speak in Spanish.
Yes.
She has the paper here. I can, so I just want
You
you,
will speak in Spanish and you will translate.
absolutely.
You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Can you give me 6? Okay.
What?
All right, that's fine.
We'll see.
I will share with you this testimony right after it's done. And also, I will remember Monica too, in case you also wants to find out about
Well,
that.
we have a question for Mr.
A question?
Webster.
All right, go ahead, sir. Yes. It is. Yes. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tenemos 5 minutos. Ok. Ajá, puede leer y yo voy a...
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Araceli. Vivo en el 115 Lawton Street, Yonkers, New York. 10705 con mi familia y soy miembro se hace de Camino a Nueva York. Y quiero hablar sobre cómo algunos ajustes de renta a presupuestos afectan negativamente a la familia, como la mía, que no están cubiertas por las protecciones de estabilidad de renta y a pasar para que vivamos en el condado de Westchester. El enfrentamiento asimismo de la crisis de la vivienda. Los propietarios quieren aumentar las unidades protegidas bajo la ley de la protección de inquilinos de emergencia ETPA, por sus siglas en inglés, para los contratos, arrendamientos que comiencen entre el 1 de octubre de del 2026, perdón, y el 30 de septiembre del 2027. Hasta un 8%. Esto es injusto y representaría una carga muy pesada para inquilinos como yo. Solicitamos que se congele la renta y que se proteja a los inquilinos de estos aumentos injustificados. Aunque Jonker cuenta con algunas viviendas con renta estabilizada, yo no vivo en apartamento de renta estabilizada. Vivo en un pequeño edificio de 4 unidades. De 35 unidades.
I have to interrupt you right here because she just said, I speak Spanish, so I understood.
Yeah.
She just said that that she lives in a building that is not rent stabilized. So this discussion is for rent stabilized.
You can see it is a 115 Lawton Street, Yonkers. It's a 35 apartments building built in 1973.
So she said the opposite.
But she's saying that it is. I mean, ellos están diciendo que como que aquí usted está diciendo que no está como cubierto por el renta estabilizada.
Ajá.
Yeah.
Dígale que no lo alcance a leer bien.
All right, she's saying that there is something about clarity here, but yeah, you can continue.
Soy madre soltera de 4 hijos y pretendemos una familia inmigrante de bajos recursos.
Trabajamos muy duro para salir adelante y merecemos una vivienda estable, segura y accesible. Sin embargo, sin protecciones para más fuertes los aumentos de renta. Nos han dificultado mucho mantenernos establecidos en nuestro hogar. Hace 2 años mi familia fue desplazada debido al aumento de la renta que no pudimos pagar. Nuestra renta aumentó de 1,500 a 2,600 dólares y nos vivimos obligados a dejar nuestra casa. Antes de eso yo vivía en White Plains por más de 20 años y me encantaba formar parte de esa comunidad. Mis hijos crecieron ahí, asistieron en la escuela y formaron sus asistencias, sus amistades ahí. Pero a medida de que la renta ha aumentado, el ingreso que con tanto esfuerzo ganamos ya no fue suficiente para mantenernos en nuestra vivienda. Si hubiera existido protecciones más fuertes contra la renta, mis hijos no hubieran tenido que cambiar las escuelas ni empezar de nuevo en otra ciudad. Mientras la Junta revisa estos ajustes, debemos considerar que la ETPA está diseñada para brindar alivio urgente a inquilinos que no cuentan con suficiente protección frente a los aumentos constantes de la renta. La Junta establece un procedente sobre todo los pequeños porcentajes de aumento. Pueden tener un impacto serio en familias que ya luchan por cubrir el aumento de costo de la vivienda, los alimentos, el transporte, los servicios básicos y la atención médica. Necesitamos política que refleje la realidad de los salarios. No han crecido al mismo ritmo que las rentas y que muchas familias están en un solo aumento de ser desplazados.
Okay, your time is up. Yeah.
Sí, el tiempo se terminó.
Okay, okay.
So,
Gabriel.
Ms. Santiago has a question.
Hola, y gracias por su testimonio, señora Araceli. Usted mencionó que su renta aumentó bastante. ¿Cuál fue la cantidad que aumentó? I'm asking Ms. Araceli she had mentioned an increase, a significant increase in rent, and I'm asking her what the increase was.
Sí, la renta aumentó $1,000 de 1,500, 1,100, de 1,500 a 2,600.
From 1,100 to 2,600?
15. De 1,500 a 2,600 aumentó 1,100.
1,500 to
26,
to 16.
oh, 1,600, okay.
No, de 1,500 a 2,600.
Oh,
Yeah.
1,500 to 1,206,
No,
2,000.
2,600.
2,000, that's an 1,100.
1,100.
So that's why I question if this is a ETPA building. You know, because that's an 11,
Yes, that's important to determine now. What's her address?
115 Lawton
Street.
Street, Yonkers, New York.
I'm gonna ask Mrs. Stecker. Mrs. Stecker, do you have access to find out this? Okay. We will find out if that building is.
Van a investigar si el edificio está
Yeah.
en protecciones. Pero, yeah, I'm just
Yes.
explaining to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had 5 minutes with the translation, but now you went above that. Can
We
you?
will share with you.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll share the document with you. Even I can use your email, the way we are using to communicate with you. And so that way we don't have to spend, yeah. So I think we're good. So we will share the English version with you, just to Save your time, 'cause
Okay.
it's very hot here too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Gracias.
Yes, Mr. Yes?
Just make sure that people that we had in this evening are very stabilized.
Yes.
It is. It is.
We see their time.
Wheelchair looking.
Mhm.
So rather than we see their time and the rest of the people who will leave to speak.
Yeah.
We just confirm with them that they are ready to speak, but.
But we need to speak current. So.
It may be, but I'm just saying the first one wasn't, but it's gonna be sure that we do that.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And so.
And
Can you
just so I
take
just
us
want to
on-
add something.
Yes,
If it is a rent stabilized ETPA building, I would want to know why an increase of $1,100 it seems, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Well,
Correct. Well, and just want to say something, we really need, support in this committee to increase the inclusion. Because I see, people who don't speak Spanish, but they pay rent, they live here, and they have right to stay here. But how can make it if they don't have appropriate, like, translation, like, service?
right.
I think we are requesting you also to increase the inclusions of the people that only speak Spanish or maybe any other language. They live here, they pay rent, they pay taxes.
No, that's not the point, though. I get what he's saying. He's saying that we need to be inclusive of anyone who because of the percentage of Spanish speakers is 30% by the census,
30%.
30% in Westchester County alone. So I understand what you're asking for. I'm not sure what the process is to get these things translated, but I certainly hear you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh,
It's,
Ms. Hayward.
good evening, and thank you so much for coming tonight. I do appreciate it. Actually, I just want to piggyback off of something you were saying, Evelyn, is that in other committees that I'm a part of, if people are testifying, maybe we can do this, when they sign up, they could let us know if they need translation. And if so, in what language, and maybe we can help out in that regard. Because we do have people that speak many different languages throughout the state of New York, and especially in Westchester County. So I do think that is a fair request if we can accommodate it.
Yeah,
So all I'm saying is, I don't know if we could do that for next year or the year after. If people who are testifying, if we can say, do you
Yeah.
need translation?
Mr. Stecker just confirmed that he is going to see if he can request that.
Preguntarlo, cuando vienen a testificar aquí,
That was
que
great.
ellos hablan para ellos prepararse y poder tener.
And then,
Y es por decir, le dijimos a ellos, le dijimos a ellos que ustedes hablan así.
Right.
Y que no tengan pena.
There's rights.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what, in the education process.
Right. I think, but it is, because then we need to mitigate that, right? For people who don't know, because they may not know.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, Ms. Stewart?
So let me speak to that point, because I've been in the business of trying to educate tenants for, I don't know, 14, 15 years now. And it's a challenging process, because sometimes even people who are rent stabilized, and I know that they're rent stabilized because they live in my complex, and because the last time there was an MCI list that came out, I can see who is and who is not. but people's understanding of what it is versus what it's not. I have people who think that because their rent is $2,500, that their market rate, but their rent stabilized in actuality. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen among tenants. There is not a particularly good mechanism to help educate people about that. And yes, there are landlords that are cheating people, that are taking advantage of the fact that people do not know what the increases are supposed to be or what their rights are. And there are very few resources available to tenants to help them to the extent that people can. Organizations like Mount Vernon United Tenants, et cetera, are out here, but there's really not nearly as much information that's available. And sometimes it's that, people are busy. People have other priorities. That's not the most important thing. That's not at the top of their list. They may not even realize how important it is. So I just tell you, as somebody who's been in the process of trying to help organize tenants and educate tenants, that it's a lot easier to say that people should know if they're rent stabilized or not. And I have people that are in my complex and they're not sure. And I have meetings regularly to try to educate people about that. And sometimes people can come, sometimes they can't. Their understanding of what it means, it's just a lot.
A lot of the community takes advantage of rent stabilized apartments or staff. And they need, this education both in English and staff. So that's just my concern. Yes, right, it has to come anyway. But from seeing what we through the door this evening, and a lot of people, well, they have, and I think it's important.
Perhaps the owners can assist with that. Perhaps the owners can provide some of the literature that's available, because it is available from the state. The Tenants' Rights Guide is in English and Spanish. Maybe some of the owners can assist by sharing that with their Spanish-speaking tenants.
No.
Right. I just
Thank
want to
you.
mention, thank you, Councilman. Because when I email you with the details of these members, I clarify that they, if you will offer translations for them. And thanks, because you respond that you didn't have translation service.
Who said that?
No, when I email
You-
with the details.
It was an email that came in last night after 5 o'clock. We had no time to
No.
to try to arrange translation services. I'm sorry that didn't happen, but we'll certainly look into it for the future.
We
That's
want-
part of a larger discussion that kind of goes beyond the reason for the public hearing tonight.
Right.
There's nothing that can really be done about it right now, but I think there's a lot of people still left on the list
Yeah.
for speakers, and
Yeah.
I'm certainly happy to discuss with you, and I appreciate you raising the issue, but
Thank you.
there's nothing that can really be done about it.
No
at
problem
this
with
moment.
that.
And I want to say thank you for being an advocate on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, thank you, everyone.
Next person is Nick Stolaris. Nick Stolaris. Are you representing yourself or an entity?
Representing an organization?
An organization? You have 5 minutes.
PRI. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Rent Guidelines Board. My name is Nicholas Stolatis. I'm a principal with EPN Real Estate Services, a property management firm located in Pleasantville, and I'm a real estate investor. I'm here as a member of the Apartment Owners Advisory Council of the Building and Realty Institute. I have extensive experience in real estate management and investment, both at the institutional level and on a personal level. Today's rent regulations are why we are here today. Property owners of rent-regulated apartments are forced to give up the ability to earn a fair return on their investments. They are completely dependent on the critical financial decisions made by this board regarding their investment. At the same time, this board has a duty and obligation to be fair and equitable in its deliberations. There is no question that operating costs, real estate taxes, utilities, repairs, and other services that a property owner must provide for the benefit of the residents have increased significantly year over year. The research by the HCR itself has declared that overall costs have grown by 4.2% in the last year. If this board is to be fair and equitable, that should be the starting point for its deliberations on the permitted increase in rent during the current cycle. It should be obvious none of this increase will stay in the pockets of the property owners. It is well established and acknowledged by credible observers that the rent increases awarded over the preceding decades have completely failed to keep pace with the increases in operating expenses. Property owners were forced to absorb these costs. In many cases, they paid these costs out of their own funds, effectively subsidizing the residents' continued occupancy in their apartments. While there are institutional owners who might be able to absorb such costs over the long term, the unfortunate reality is most of the older properties with rent-regulated apartments are owned by families and small local firms. They have limited resources. Their investment in the property should be generating a fair return. But due to the past failure to approve fair rent increases, many of these small investors need other jobs to help cover their bills. Many owners take on maintenance tasks themselves because they can't afford to pay a worker or a contractor to do these tasks. This cheats the owner who isn't being compensated for the work done, and it cheats a local worker who would have been hired to do the work. The excessively low rents also make it financially impossible for a property owner to invest in improvements to the property. When an owner has to pay out of pocket for operating expenses like real estate taxes and utilities, there aren't any funds available to replace a leaky roof or to repaint the corridor. Now, let me be clear. Property owners invest their money in owning and maintaining multifamily buildings with the hope and expectation they will earn a return on that investment. We pay real estate taxes, which fund the schools and services in our community. Having to subsidize a resident's rent should not be an expected outcome of these rent guideline meetings. It's easy to look at anyone who is a property owner as some fat cat generating huge profits. That may or may not be the case in the market rate housing market, but it is nowhere near the truth for those property owners who have rent-regulated apartments. That is who you are dealing with during these meetings. And your deliberations. That is who you need to consider when deciding on a fair and equitable rent adjustment. That is who is coming to you for relief and support after decades of failed promises. Allow us to continue to provide the services that our tenants need by, at the very least, letting us recover the costs incurred. Owning an apartment building or any multifamily property has been a common path for generations of working-class people to improve their own situation and to build family wealth. It takes a lot of hard work and investment risk. There are many emergencies that need to be responded to. There are also many regulations that must be complied with. There are costs and expenses that have to be paid. By cheating these owners of a fair and equitable adjustment to cover inflationary cost increases, you will be setting the stage for more property owners being unable to properly maintain their properties. The residents will suffer from less than ideal conditions, creating a downward spiral that will harm the owner, the resident, and the surrounding community. Now, thank you for your attention this evening. I hope that you will all consider the full scope and impact of your decision and to make that decision based on equity, fairness, and honest facts.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I only got your first name, so I'm sorry, Nicholas. My apologies.
Not at all.
So at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned rent-regulated apartments as opposed to rent stabilized. Is there a difference, or did I hear that wrong?
You know, they're all subject to a regulation that controls and constrains rent increases.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the
Yeah, I'm using it
clarification.
generically.
Thank you.
Anybody?
I'm sorry? Currently, we are not managing or owning any residential. We are looking to develop a residential project, but we've been in the real estate business for over 40 years.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
I have a name here that I can't figure out. What? What?
I'm sorry? Currently, we don't own or manage any, a two-family, but that's really not within in the scope. So I'm not looking at that specifically as, it's not rent regulated. So I thought the question was, do we have any rent regulated or rent controlled, rent stabilized apartments? And the answer is no.
Excuse me,
oh, sorry.
you're not allowed to interact among yourselves, please. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a name here, I can't figure out. Romero? Can you tell us your name, please?
Yes, my name is Albea Romero,
Bear Romero.
Yes.
Ms. Romero, are you here representing yourself or an entity?
an entity. I'm a staff attorney with Hudson Valley Justice
You
Center.
have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Hudson Valley Justice Center as a nonprofit organization that provides legal services to tenants across multiple counties in New York State, including Westchester County. I'm also a Westchester resident and renter myself. In the first half of 2026 alone, our very small organization assisted at least 100 Westchester families living in ETPA apartments who were at risk of eviction because they had fallen behind paying their rent. Many of our clients have steady jobs, yet falling behind paying their rent for a number of reasons. As many of us know, in the current economy, many families are just one car breakdown, one unexpected medical bill, or one missed paycheck away from being at risk of becoming homeless. There are current insufficient protections for those tenants who do not qualify for senior or disability rent. Exceptions because wages are stagnant and are not increasing at a rate that keeps up with the rising cost of rent. As a tenants advocate, we often find ourselves in the position of advising tenants whose rent has become unaffordable that their best option is to leave their ETPA apartment and try to find a more affordable apartment elsewhere. There are people who have lived there their whole lives in their ETPA apartments. They have grown up and raised their children. They are now being forced to abandon their apartments and their communities and consider shelter options of substandard housing because that is all that they can afford. To provide just one recent example from right here in Mount Vernon, we recently had to advise an ETPA tenant who had lived in the same apartment for 20 years and raised her children in that apartment that she should move. This was the best advice that we could provide her because her wages did not increase enough to keep up with the rising cost of the ETPA rent. In Mount Vernon and Yonkers specifically, the majority of non-residents are people of color. And the median household income is approximately half of the median household income for the rest of the county. There are approximately 1,500 ETPA buildings in Yonkers and Mount Vernon alone. And maintaining the rents in those buildings at an affordable level is crucial to ensure that the families currently living there are not put at risk of becoming homeless. We thank the board for their consideration, and we also urge the board to consider the impact of their vote will have on some of the Westchester's most economical precarious tenants and to vote for a 0% increase. I also would like to answer some of the concerns that the landlords have this tonight, in this forum. I know that, thank you. Some of their concerns ask that they cannot do increases, to improve the buildings, such as elevators. However, ETPA has already those regulations to do that as an MCI that will increase a little bit extra the rent to all the tenants to also share the burden of having, like, let's say, a new elevator They also raised that there were no longer, vacancy increases, and they will appreciate just having a small rent increase whenever they have a new tenant. There is small changes that are done already considering the law, going from a preferential rent to a legal regulated rent. There is always an increase for that, and they can do it if they just follow the proper procedures and paperwork. There is enough cases that we have seen, unfortunately, in our own practice, in cases that I can testify that I have represented, that we have gotten decisions from Younger City Court recognizing that there is a rent overcharge in this premises, that this is our ETPA, apartments and premises, and that the landlord has just overcharged our tenants. However, no change has been done. There are clients that I've been fighting for them to get a lease renewal at the rate that they're supposed to for 2 years. Still, no changes, still overpaying after a court decision. The decision that the board does today, it will affect, teachers, medical health workers here. We're not talking about low paying jobs here. We're not saying that they are not sharing the burden of it. We're trying to do what is best for our community, and I think a 0% increase will be that. Thank you so much, and I am open for questions if any of the board has any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Yes,
questions?
ma'am.
Yes.
I wanted to say thank you for your testimony. Quick question though. You had said you've been in court over 2 years with some of these cases, and they're not using our regulations for the rent increases and everything. Whether we pass 0% or we pass some percentage, they're still not going to be regulated in the same, like you're talking about landlords that are overcharging anyway. So it's not.
Yes, but then you will not increase, the possibility of a person being in an eviction proceeding. What you're doing, raising the rent, it will create like a higher rate of people being in eviction proceedings. I have heard, that you're like, hey, you can go to nonprofits and like Catholic Charities and Cluster and Mount Vernon's tenants, but the amount of people or nonprofits like will help and assist, in non-payments of rent is really minimum, for the big impact that they have. Yes, there are delinquent landlords here, and there are good landlords here that we have heard here how they have tried to, help their community and know each one of their tenants. But, we are trying to all move together and do what is best for the community, and having more homeless people is not just best for our community.
Anybody else? Yes.
Were you speaking from written testimony? And if so, if it's possible, we can have a copy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you for your testimony, and you're suggesting a 0 for 1 year? Are you suggesting the same for a 2-year or something slightly higher for a 2 years? Your recommendation based on what you're seeing?
It is up to the board. I will understand if for a 2 years, they will do like a low, percentage, but, we do, like I said, we're trying to improve our community, and our community as a whole will not be improved for having more homelessness and having people, more in the streets. I understand it's better for landlords to have some profit or break even than, having homeless outside depreciating the prices of their buildings.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next person is Anika Nahar. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Welcome. Are you representing yourself or an entity?
Entity.
Yeah, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, members of the Rent Guidelines Board. My name is Anika Nahar, and I am here tonight because this issue is personal to me. My father immigrated to the United States from Bangladesh with little more than $100 in his pocket two young children to support, and a belief that if he worked hard enough, he could build a better life for his family. Like many immigrant families, we rented for years. My parents worked hard, saved what they could, and sacrificed so that my brother and I would have opportunities they never had. More than 20 years ago, my father took a leap of faith and purchased a multifamily building. It wasn't easy. There was no family wealth, no safety net, and no shortcuts. Just hard work, determination, and the hope that one day his investment would provide stability for our family. That building helped pay for my college education and my siblings' education. It became more than a property. It became part of my father's legacy. It represented the American dream that brought him to this country in the first place. I've also seen what it means to be a landlord. I've watched my father leave family dinners and cancel plans because a tenant had a plumbing issue or a plumbing emergency or a heating issue. I've watched him spend weekends making repairs, responding to concerns, and doing everything possible to keep the building safe and well-maintained. I've also seen the challenges. I've seen apartments damaged beyond normal wear and tear. I've seen situations where one tenant's behavior negatively impacted other residents in the building. And I've seen the financial burden that comes with repairing that damage and maintaining quality housing. Fortunately, because my father's building is not rent stabilized, he has had the flexibility to make the investments necessary to keep the property in good condition while remaining financially viable. Many of the property owners who appear before this board every year do not have that flexibility. They face rising property taxes, rising insurance costs, rising labor costs, rising maintenance expenses, and growing regulatory burdens. Yet they are limited in their ability to recover these costs. In fact, Westchester County itself increased property taxes by 3.75% this year. If the government recognizes that rising costs require additional revenue, why is it unreasonable for housing providers to ask for rent adjustments that reflect the reality of their own expenses? The data submitted to HCR shows that operating costs increased 4.2% year over year. That is not an opinion, and that is not politics. That is the reality of what it costs to operate housing in Westchester County today. When we go to the grocery store, we see higher prices. When we go to restaurants, we see higher prices. When we hire contractors, buy insurance, or pay utility bills, we see higher prices. We may not like it, but we understand why it happens. For some reason, that same understanding is often not extended to property owners. I often find myself wondering why. Rent-stabilized property owners are among the largest providers of affordable housing in New York. They are not the cause of the housing affordability crisis. They are the people working every single day to preserve the housing that already exists. Many of these buildings are family businesses. Many were purchased by immigrants, first-generation Americans, and small entrepreneurs that saw real estate as one of the few pathways available to build something for future generations. For many immigrant families, professional credentials earned overseas do not easily translate in the U.S. Real estate ownership became a way to create stability, opportunity, and generational wealth through hard work and sacrifice. That was true for my father, and it is true for many of the owners sitting in this room tonight. When property owners come before this board year after year, they are not asking for special treatment. They are asking to be heard. They are asking for decisions that reflect economic reality. These buildings are not simply assets on a balance sheet. They are livelihoods. They are retirement plans, and they are family businesses. In many cases, they are legacies built over generations. I respectfully urge the board to follow the data and approve an increase consistent with documented operating costs. A 4.2% increase on a one-year renewal lease is a reasonable and balanced approach that allows owners to maintain their properties while continuing to provide quality housing for their tenants. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for your, one minute?
One question. I'm sorry, I missed it. Ms. Ahad is
Nahar.
Nard, okay.
Yes.
What organization do you represent?
The Building and Realty Institute, the BRI.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Did I understand that the building your building, you own a building?
My father does.
Your father does?
Yep.
And is it rent stabilized?
It is not. His building is in New Jersey where stabilization laws don't exist.
So you're here just to
Yes, because I work with the BRI. I've worked with the BRI for over 6 years. And over the course of those 6 years, I've worked directly with property owners of rent stabilized apartments. I've been to their buildings and I've worked with them one-on-one. And I've seen how much they care about providing decent quality housing for their tenants.
Okay. Ms. Stewart, you have a question? I saw you raising your hand, no? Oh, okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is John, and I apologize if I mispronounce, Lilienthal?
Yes. Good evening and thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this hearing. First of all, I don't understand everyone makes such a big deal about tenants, whether they live in a rent stabilized building or if it's not. Yet when a landlord comes, I see now that the question goes sort of over everyone's head that they're not representing rent stabilization. And they're here from New Jersey or from whatever. Why isn't it equally assessed as to the value of the testimony? Since I'm hearing that to-do is made about the tenants supposedly not living in a rent stabilized building, which I think it was determined that perhaps they really do. I'm here representing myself, even though I'm a member of a number of tenant organizations, New York State Tenants and Neighbors, Met Council on Housing, Queens League of United Tenants, but I live in Yonkers. And I must say that the data that's being bandied about, well, let me just digress for a moment. You know, there are landlords and then there are landlords. There are big landlords that own vast resources and properties, and then there are a lot of suffering smaller landlords. You know, they come out and talk about their difficulties, and indeed, many of them do. Not the bigger ones. They don't, most of the rent stabilized properties are in the hands of investors who aren't divesting themselves. They're not getting rid of their properties to go invest in Wall Street or whatever, or they may have money to do that on the side. But there are methods for smaller landlords that are suffering. For instance, and they're very rarely used. Now, people have talked about how the laws, the HSTPA of 2019 has diminished the value of major capital improvements and that IAIs are no longer available, but this just is not true. IAIs are still available, and there was an adjustment made since 2019 to increase the amount that a landlord can collect. So that is available. And when it comes to major capital improvements, yes, it's also been diminished as to the value that can be gleaned initially. It's a smaller percentage, but when a tenant vacates that apartment, the remainder can be instantly captured to the next tenant. So there are resources available, and then there's the resource that no one ever talks about. For a landlord that's really suffering, there is the hardship application with DHCR, which they're advised by their mentors, and those in the real estate industry never do that. It's verboten to even go there. But there is an application process with DHCR for those who really do suffer. So, you know, I think that there's a possibility that there is an analogous process, of course, in New York City. And there is the Rent Guidelines Board has relied upon Professor Collins, Timothy Collins, who was the director of the New York City the executive director of the New York City Rent Guidelines Board. And he's done a lot of calculations in spite of our mathematician professor and such. And he has come up with the figures that you must consider over the course of a 10-year or even longer period of time to equitably see what the capture of rent increases has been. You can't just do it from one guideline to the prior guideline, or even 3 or 4 of them. You have to take a whole basket of them. And everyone is talking about how the prices, I guess you might call it, New York City, they call it the PIOC, the price index of operating costs. These things are there to be gleaned and to be looked at and assessed. And I think that the New York City Rent Guideline Board has done a pretty good job of doing that. And I suggest that you might want to look at the analogy of what they've done to what might be doable here. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. I am. All right, I'm a tenant advocate, but I'm here not on behalf of my organizations. I just mentioned it. I am a tenant in Yonkers. I live in the 500 block of Riverdale Avenue in a 84-unit building. And it is absolutely rent stabilized, as are all the adjacent apartment houses, 6- and 7-story apartment houses that are surrounding me are, with the exception of a few that have gone co-op. Yeah. 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 I got it. I agree. But then why are landlords here who are not involved with rent stabilization testifying? Why are landlords coming up? There's this young lady who was just here and some prior landlord. Yeah. I believe there was a prior. I believe there was a prior landlord who also said that the testimony he was giving was not based on their ownership of rent-regulated properties. No. Okay, fine. You know what, that loses the point. The point I'm making is that there are many, many avenues available for landlords who are suffering, and these are the smaller landlords, not the big landlords run by big property management companies that that have big buildings with 80, 100 unit buildings in them. Yeah. I can suggest that Timothy Collins might be able to do that. Yeah, you may know who he is. Okay.
I have a
Mrs. Diaz,
question.
yeah.
Yes, so you mentioned that smaller landlords have the ability to get some hardship funding. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
FCR has what's called a hardship application, which can be filled out and filed, and it's a way for them to be able to adjust their increases. It's rarely used, but it's there. Hardship application with DACR.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you for your testimony. You sound like somebody who's pretty knowledgeable, and one of the things that I know has crossed my mind, and since you're talking about looking at over time, is that oftentimes landlords will come and they'll complain about a particular category of expense that's gone up, a certain year. The fuel went up this year.
Yeah, that's the pie out.
But then they don't take into account the fact that you got an increase when the fuel went up, but then when the fuel went down, it's not as if there was anything that got taken into account. Is your sense from looking at over a period of time that some of those things kind of fall off the edge of whatever it is, and so it's always the focus is always on the prices that go up, the costs that go up, and the ones that actually go in the opposite direction end up kind of getting lost in the sauce?
I can't think of a time when there's been a reduction based on PIA factors, but it can lower. It's adjustable on a year-by-year basis, but that's why a large specter of years has to be looked at to be able to assess what the actual costs and the remuneration and the ability to adjust to those is over the course of some time. And Professor Collins has done that, and he's well known for it. I don't have his, it's easily researchable. Professor Timothy Collins.
I have some of
Yeah.
his information, and I wanted to ask you about something that Mr. Nielsen said, when he spoke earlier, and he was talking about the increases, and he gave us some charts over time.
Yeah.
But the period of time that he spoke about covered about the last 10 years. part of that time was pre-HSTPA, was back when when landlords were able to recover vacancy bonuses and some of the other things, yet he only spoke about the actual rent increases as if none of those other things were available during that same period of time, that owners were not actually getting revenue from those other aspects of rent stabilization. And it seemed to me that that kind of connected with what you're saying in terms of when you look at a larger time, you got to look at the full picture and not just a little piece of it.
I mean, there were times here in Westchester County where the increases were in the 4 to 7% range, but that's going back historically. Recent times been less so, but you have to take the full measure.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Next person is Shona Paula. Hello. Are you representing yourself or?
No, I am the chief of staff at a real estate management company. So, good evening or good night.
So
late.
what can I do with you?
I work for a family-owned property management company that has operated residential housing in New York for decades. We manage several rent-stabilized communities throughout Westchester County, many of which are older properties that require substantial ongoing maintenance and capital investment simply to remain safe, functional, and compliant with today's housing standards. Rent increases often focus on affordability for residents, which is certainly important. And being a renter in New York City, I understand this conversation. However, it's equally important to recognize the financial realities facing the owners and operators who are responsible for maintaining these buildings. The buildings in our portfolio are aging, and as buildings age, repairs are no longer minor maintenance items. They become major capital projects that cannot be deferred. For example, one of our properties recently required extensive replacement of heating system piping at a cost exceeding $165,000. This was not an upgrade or an optional improvement. It was necessary to maintain the heat and hot water service for residents and preserve the integrity of the building systems throughout the winter season. At the same time, virtually every operating expense has increased significantly. Insurance premiums continue to rise, utility costs have increased, labor costs have increased, vendor pricing for plumbing, electrical, roofing, masonry, landscaping, snow removal, and other essential services have risen dramatically. Compliance requirements continue to expand, requiring additional costs that building owners must also absorb. Unfortunately, landlords can't simply adjust the rental pricing to keep pace with inflation, and those ever constant rising expenses. Yet the obligation to maintain safe and habitable housing remains unchanged. Many rent-stabilized properties today are operating on very narrow margins. In some cases, the revenue generated by those buildings is barely keeping pace with the escalating operating costs. When owners are unable to recover a reasonable portion of these costs and necessary repairs, and infrastructure improvements may become increasingly difficult to fund. These are not simply a challenge for property owners, it's a challenge for long-term preservation of affordable housing itself. If we want rent stabilization housing to remain viable for future generations, building owners must have the financial ability to maintain aging infrastructure, respond to emergencies, comply with regulations, and continue providing quality housing for residents. The requested rent adjustment is not about increasing profits. It's about ensuring that these buildings remain financially sustainable and physically sound. It's about preserving housing stock that serves thousands of residents throughout Westchester County. We remain committed to providing safe, well-maintained homes for our residents. We respectfully ask that the board consider the significant pressures facing property owners and approve an increase that's based on the results of the survey that reflects the true cost of operating and maintaining these properties. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anybody has a question?
You asked everybody a question. I'm waiting. Hello. Yeah, I get it. I get it. We are. I'd like to think so.
ETPA stock portfolio, part of your portfolio. What's the turnover in that particular part of your portfolio? Over the last 8 years?
Okay, I don't have the actual answer to that question. I am the chief of staff, so I do I work with every department. I would say it's not as high, as some of our, other buildings we manage in New York City as well. But speaking to Westchester, we don't have a high turnover. We don't have a lot of, vacancy loss, I would say, based on what I know. I would say so, unless they don't get something. We do have mortgages. Right. And okay, I don't want to sound crazy. We do have mortgages. We have increases. I mean, they're locked in for a certain amount of years. So, but in terms of like being able to refinance them or doing things like that, it is a lot harder. And, you have to kind of shop them around to several different banks because of just everything involved with them doing the I want to say due diligence, but in terms of determining how valuable it is for them to give us a mortgage. Right, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it. I think I may have missed something, though. So you said that you have properties here in Westchester?
We do.
How many do you have that are ETPA?
Six
And then you-
buildings. 6 buildings.
6 buildings, and all the apartments are ETPA?
Not all the apartments, over about 60% of them.
And that is what number? 2, 3, 4?
586
586.
units.
And where are the apartment buildings?
They're in Mount Vernon, we have Terrytown, we have, Mount Vernon, Terrytown. Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Mount Vernon, Terrytown, New Rochelle, I'm sorry. Yonkers, I'm sorry. Yes, quite a few different towns. No, we're not. I've never met him. I've just been enjoying he's been asking everyone questions, so I was.
And so what's
trying
the
to
name of
prepare-
your organization again?
It's Sampson Management.
Sampson Management?
Sampson Management.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good night.
Maritza Diaz. I believe this is one of the ladies that came with the translator, and they left already. The last person in my list is a person, I can't figure out the first name, but the last name is Joseph. Joseph? No? Well, if those two people are not here, that brings us to the end of our list of speakers, and it concludes the business of this meeting.
Chair, if I
Yes.
could. You have a public hearing open right now, so this board, if you're gonna close the meeting, you would make a motion to close the public hearing. You could leave the public hearing open to accept written submissions for a time being, which is what you've done the last 2 years. It's just a matter of when that time frame would end. You do have a presentation meeting on Monday, and usually you don't accept anything after the presentation happens, but just for reference, last year, the public hearing was left open until June 20th. You did start the public hearing a lot earlier this year, though.
Yes. So I think we're gonna have a motion to extend yes, Ms. Stewart.
Going to suggest that given that we started so early and that our hearings have been fairly early in the month, that we do, that I make a motion that we continue to accept written testimony up until the presentations on Monday.
Yeah. So, you making that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody second?
I second the motion.
Yes?
Time on Monday.
Thank you.
You're making the
2
motion.
o'clock,
so
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
You're the one making the motion, Ms. Stewart, so.
Up until what time are we accepting presentation, testimony?
If there's a
written testimony?
particular time that you suggested would be
From
fine.
a procedural standpoint, I'm gonna have to get them and send them out to you all, so.
Noon?
you
I
know,
think
if
by
you do
noon.
Some sort of like 2 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
That would probably be the last.
That seems reasonable. That definitely seems reasonable. Is
Mr.
that
President,
okay?
Do you want to reinstate the motion in?
Sure, the
in
motion
roll?
was made by Tamara Stewart, seconded by
Natalie
Natalie Felsenfeld. And it was to close the public hearing except for written testimony that will be accepted until 2 o'clock on Monday, the 15th. Would you like me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Okay, Tamara Stewart,
Yes.
Sylvia Hamer,
Yes.
Robert Withers. Yeah. Okay. Chair Rubin,
Yes.
Evelyn Santiago,
Yes.
and Natalie Felsenfeld.
Yes.
That carries with all 6 members present voting in favor. So what I'll do is I'll update the public notice. I'll send it out with the updated timeframe, and then I'll send the board everything we get before 2 o'clock on Monday.
Thank you. And thank you for the audience here for being here tonight. It's very important for us to hear your testimony. I know you're busy and you make time to be here, giving your testimony and your comments, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. Everybody in agreement?
Bye.
This meeting is adjourned.